On today's episode, we are interviewing one of my all-time favorite founders. And did I mention she's a complete boss babe? Kimber Jane, who is the founder of Borboleta Lashes, one of the world's largest lash brands. I'm a little starstruck, I'm not gonna lie. I can't believe I actually got to sit down with her one-on-one and have a full conversation of her story and why she started Borboleta. So let's jump into this episode because I don't want to give too much away, but it is absolutely a fun, just unbelievable episode. Just listen, you'll love it.
Really listened to my intuition at that point where I was like, no, I'm going to hair school. And I found a way to do it, and I put myself through hair school and I learned the ropes of beauty, which is so funny because anybody that's ever been to hair school or esthetician school, that's not really where you go and learn like beauty. It's kind of like what people think it is almost. But I still had a blast in it, and I learned how to take care of my hair and take care of my nails. And I found in hair school that I really did have much more of a passion for the business side of beauty than I actually had for the craft of beauty, because still to this day, Nicole, I cannot figure out how to curl my hair. Like, I go and get blowouts all the time. I I don't know how to do beauty stuff. Even when I was doing lashes on clients, like, I figured it out, but I was like not the best lash artist at all. So it's really ironic that that's really what turned me in, what I call like my gateway drug to beauty was hair school. And then I learned that I wasn't a crafts maker in hair school, that I was obsessed about making money in the beauty industry. And all I could see was this huge pie in front of me of all these things that hadn't been touched, and why are people not doing them, and like how can I hone in on them. And that's truly, like, I always say, like, lash extensions to me were like the biggest and best mistake of my whole entire life. Like, I got lash extensions on because I was in that world. I was working in a salon. You hear all the chatter like, oh, did you know that you can extend your lashes now? And I was like, what? I have the worst lashes in the world. So of course I go and get lash extensions on. I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I've never been prettier. And then all of a sudden, like, I come back to the salon, everybody wants to get lashes on. And at that time I'm young, like 20 something, 21 years old. And I I'm like selling everybody to go get lash extensions, and I'm $50,000 in credit card debt, and I'm sitting there like trying to do blowouts on people and like sweeping up hair, trying to make all the money that I can. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, like, wait a second, maybe I should be the one doing lash extensions. Like, if I'm selling them like this, maybe I should. And so I did. I started doing lash extensions. I built a full clientele in 3 months. I paid off my debt in 1 year. And from there, I was like, guess what? I found a way to make money and make people feel beautiful. And I look 10 times better. And like, now I actually have money to spend on myself to make myself look better. So it was like all these like just started happening. It was like I knew that I followed my passion because everything seemed to be falling into place in just the most bizarre ways.
I like love your story because I was definitely like a tomboy, but then there was points I got into beauty pageants, and when I was in high school, and I did the same. Like, I remember going to class and I was like orange from spray tan. I tried like all the spray tans out there, and people were looking at me. I'm like, I thought I looked good, and then I saw pictures, and I was like, okay, either my lighting's really bad at my house, or I have no idea. And that's why I got into the beauty industry myself and getting into like aesthetics, and then lashes came to me because I did beauty pageants and I had lash extensions, and I was like, who doesn't want these done? Like,
Right.
it was like an immediate love. And then when I don't have them, I feel like I look like a boy. So I'm like, who wouldn't want them, right? It's an addiction.
They are. They like, you look at yourself for the first time and you're like, oh, why didn't anyone tell me how much better I look with these on? Who would have known? You can't even compare them to a strip lash. If any of your listeners are listening, they're like, I wear strip lashes. Like, I promise you, it's a different thing. It's like going to, like, how do I even compare it? Like, it's like getting a double shot in your vodka tonic and not even knowing that you could feel like that. Like, I don't even describe. well, sure, I like vodka tonic, so I'm just going to keep drinking those. Try a double shot and then see how you feel. That's what lash extensions were to me. I was like, I am double the times more pretty with these on than I ever will be with strip lashes.
Absolutely. And also too, like, I think with what you were saying about how it's a reoccurring business, the business model itself is kind of where I'm at now, of seeing the business side and the numbers. And it's like teaching other people and like really wanting to pay off those credit card debts, or having your single moms who are trying to make a living, having children, and like really honing in on making it a business.
Yes. And something that I think is so critical to what you said is you're talking about making beauty a business, making your passion a business. And some people will say, like, well, that's not a real business, or like, you can't really make money, or like, my neighbor tried doing that and they totally fell flat on their face. Like, I say this all the time, and people really think that I'm like super, woo woo and cheesy for it. But I believe what you put out there, you get back. And I know we hear it all the time. And I'm not talking about like The Secret. Yes, that's kind of what it is. But like, bills still show up in my mail, even though I asked for them not to. Right. But like, I saw a transaction happen when I started doing lashes. I saw $100 come into my bank account, and I was like, wait a second. That was from one client. What if I did two? And then I did two, and I saw $200 come into my bank account. And it was this momentum that started happening. So if you're sitting here and you're listening and you're like, I don't know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. My bank account sucks right now. Like, I don't know how I'm getting more clients. Get one client, just take one, and then look at it and be like, okay, I just made, let's say $100. I just made $100. Guess what? I'm going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start thinking, how can I do that again? What am I going to do? And your mind becomes so scrappy and so focused. It's not like clients just walk in the door because you asked for it. It's like all of a sudden you're thinking so scrappy. So you're like, I'm in such a good mood and like I'm amped up right now. So I'm going to go to the grocery store, and the person that's checking me out, I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, did you see, like, I just got these lashes on, and you're going to hand them your card. Like, you're going to be so amped up. You're not even going to know what to do, because all of a sudden money is coming into your account. That's how you need to start thinking. Trust me, that literally had nothing and $50,000 in debt. All of a sudden money started coming in, and I watched my bank account go up and my credit cards go down.
Yeah. And I think it's like not giving up on that. Like, I remember my first set of lashes and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is bad. And then having like my 5 best friends like letting me practice on them, and I don't know how they trusted me, but they did. And like really honing in on your craft, like really, like you need to spend the time, you need to educate yourself. And I look at how some of my friends did the traditional education, where they went to university or college and they had all this student debt. And then I went to like a 6-month private school program for aesthetics, took my lash course, everything while I was there. And I came out with like barely any school debt, and I was making money right away. But I look at the traditional way of growing up or going to school, people look down on a lot of beauty industries, but the beauty industry is $1 billion business. I don't think people, but like the everyday people, realize how much money can be made in these industries.
Nope. And there's still so much money that hasn't even been tapped into yet. Think about that. If you can think about something that's not being done yet, do it.
Yes.
That's like your surefire, like, oh my gosh, aha moment. Wait a second, no one's doing it. I can't do it. Yes, do it, especially if no one is.
Yes. And I think too, like, I look at brows now, even with like brow laminations and all the crazy stuff they're doing with brows, even eyelashes. Like, there's so many different paths you can go in just the face alone. Like, I do head to toe treatments, but even just on the face in general, like the amount, even makeup. I remember listening to your podcast saying like, you always went and got your makeup done. And I remember at that point listening, I was like, I've never really had my makeup done other than for pageants. And now whenever I get the chance, I'm like, okay, I want to go get my makeup done, because it was like a treat to myself, but I also learned something every time I got my makeup done.
Yes. Yes. And knowledge is the key here too. Like, always be a student. Even if you have a full clientele in anything, be learning new things. I love that you said that. That's so critical.
Yeah. And I think too, with a lot of a lot of stereotypes around beauty. I think of people, I know I've even heard it from some of my friends who are hairdressers. People will walk in and be like, so when are you going to get a real job? Or are you just doing this on the side? Or I've even had it where people are like, so are you going to do this for the rest of your life? And I'm like, with the beauty industry, you can go anywhere with it, right? There's not just one specific path.
Yeah, I mean, just reverse the question to them next time they ask you that.
Yeah.
So are you going to for the rest of your life?
Yeah, exactly.
How that's going for you. Okay.
So when you were younger, did you want to be an entrepreneur, or was it just like the way the path took you in the beauty world?
That's a really good question. I think I've always had a drive in me, and like an entrepreneurial spirit. I wouldn't say that like I came out of the gates where I was like, okay, like my path forward is an entrepreneur, but I'm enthralled with startup stories. I'm enthralled with watching someone that comes from nothing work extremely hard to get something. Like I've always been so inspired, and I've always had the mindset that really nothing that you want is impossible. And so in a way, yes, I always have wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I had tried other jobs working for other people, and I was a really, really bad employee. Like I just wasn't passionate about it. And when I finally found my passion, I knew that it was my small lash business. I knew that my clientele and making my own rules and all of that was my passion. And then when I scaled it to, Borboleta, now I really know that I followed my passion. I mean, I just look around and I'm like, oh my, I created this. Like, it's so cool and it's so wild. And it's because I wanted to own a business. And sometimes I talk to, people starting off in business and they're like, what do I do? Like, what's the first step? And that's a really hard question for me to answer, because there really isn't a first step. You just start doing. You just start getting your product out there. You just start getting your ideas out there, and you have to want to see your business be successful more than you want to breathe.
Yes.
And I think that that's why a lot of people give up on being an entrepreneur. It's not because people tell you that, this statistic of the amount of entrepreneurs fail. I think it's because you get burnt out so quickly and you're not seeing results as fast as you want. But if you can push that aside and say, I'm living my passion and I want this more, like truly, like this is my life. I live for this. I think you'll find out very quickly if that's what you want. And that's kind of how I figured out that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I figured out that when people were like, what are your hobbies? I'm like, work. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. Like I would rather be working than be on a beach right now. That's how much I love working. So I think it's ingrained in my soul to want to be an entrepreneur, but I had to find what I wanted to seek after and build.
Absolutely. And the whole point about like the breathing thing, I can completely relate to that, because I feel like I almost can't breathe when I don't know what's going on in my business, or I don't have some type of hands-on experience of what's going on, or being in touch with the girls and knowing what's going on behind the scenes. Like vacations almost stress me out more than I'm like, is it worth it?
Yes. No, it's true. That's just part of being an entrepreneur. And some people listening are probably like, that's crazy. What about the work-life balance? Like, I think, and this is my personal story, but I loved work. Like I've calmed down a little bit because my life has changed a little bit. But in the early days of my business, I lived, breathed, ate, slept, like everything you could think of. It was my entire being was my business. And I loved it. I almost didn't even want to sleep at night because I just wanted to keep working because I loved it so much.
Absolutely. Now, when you had Scotty, did you notice that it was like a really big transition, or did you kind of get yourself ready for that? Or did you have any idea the responsibility of being a mother and a business owner at the same time?
Yeah, it was a really interesting shift when I had my daughter. She's almost 2, and I worked my entire pregnancy. I planned I had her induced because I had a really important meeting that I didn't want to miss, and so I planned to have her induced, and then was back in the office within 5 days and didn't take a mat leave, which was my choice. And I remember talking to friends and I was like, I got it. I've got like the perfect nanny on lockdown. Like it's going to be amazing. Like I'm going to be working just as much as I was in the past. Like, until you're 5 years old, you don't remember anything anyway. Like I was so in like work mode in my mindset. And I had Scotty. And I jumped right back into work. And I thought that I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. I thought that I was like being there for my business and the board and the shareholders. And I thought that that was what I was supposed to be doing. And I was like, it's fine. My daughter is fine. She's being raised by like the perfect person. And I don't know if I use the word raised, but being taken care of by the perfect person. And I think the big shift happened. It actually is weird. It wasn't, so she got diagnosed with cystic fibrosis 3 weeks after we had her. Her test results came back, which was a shock. We didn't know. But even then in my mind, I was like, nope, we're still going to make this work. And I had all these international trips lined up, like to Europe and Australia. And then, every single month I was supposed to be on an airplane somewhere speaking, from Miami to LA to, you name it. I was all over the world. Like, people were asking me, are you going to slow down? Like, you just had a baby, you just like, do you need some balance, this and that? And I was just like, nope, 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 I'm good. And I did that up until March, until the pandemic hit. And this is what shifted for me. The pandemic hit. It was the most stressful time I've ever had in my entire business. As I think I could speak for probably every single person in this world, it was the most stressful time for all of us. And all of a sudden, it was like the Kim that I thought that I was, like traveling everywhere and like, living this life as like an entrepreneur and a business owner and like a boss, like all these things, like all of a sudden I was like, wait, I today I'm not that's not me, because I can't, even if I wanted it to me, it can't be me. Like, and I watched our industry just crumble and fall apart, and I watched livelihoods just fall to the wayside. And I went through some incredibly tough things in my business, but I did learn in March that time that I spent home with my daughter was time that I'm never getting back. Um, and I bonded with my daughter in a different way than I probably should have, bonded that way when she was a newborn. But all of a sudden, like, my priorities shifted, and I was like, wait a second, I like I have this amazing human. She's a fighter. She's dealing with this, to an extent, this terminal illness, and I'm her mother, and I'm not playing that role. I'm allowing someone else to play that role. And someday my business is not going to be here. And then what am I going to be left with? And it really hit me during the pandemic. And I really shifted my priorities to being okay with saying no to opportunities and setting up more of a strict work schedule. And yeah, there has been, if I'm being totally honest, like, I'm not doing it all. I used to be so on top of social media. I used to watch my following on social media grow by the day. In fact, my social media hasn't been growing by the day. And I'm lucky if I post a couple times at all a week. I don't get back to my DMs as quickly. I've had to reprioritize, but I'm learning to be okay with that, because the time that I'm spending with my daughter, I'm learning more about myself than I ever thought I would. And it's not even about me, but I what I'm learning about myself is what she's being taught.
Yeah.
And I know that everything I do, she watches me, and I think it's been a really good thing. It's really hard for me to admit that, I've let some things that used to be so important to me maybe fall by the wayside, but I can never take back what I have with my daughter. And I just don't think I'll ever put anything in place of my time with her.
I think when March happened, the whole world stopped. And it was like no one knew what the heck was happening. And we have a spa show here in Canada called the ESI show. And
Yeah.
it had just been out in Vancouver. And I remember this was in February, and we were supposed to be going to Bahamas and Spain and all these other things for like vacations. And I've always realized I've always lived in the future, always looking ahead. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have to do that. But then I realized like how many missed opportunities I had with friends and family and close ones. And I think when the world stopped, we all kind of were like alone with our thoughts, which were also scary to kind of see like what we truly wanted and what was important to us. And I love that you shared that with me. I was like, even getting a little emotional when you're talking about that, like actually spending time with her and seeing her grow. Because I think women who are listening to this, who are either moms or entrepreneurs on any level, can relate to that, because it is so hard to wear all the hats, to be that perfect mom, to be that perfect boss, to be that perfect employee or staff member. And sometimes we have to just like step back and realize we aren't perfect, and no one is.
Totally. Yeah. And um I think one of the hardest things for me to learn in this, and maybe this will help somebody, but it's okay to not do everything. And when people used to tell me that, I'd be like, well, maybe it's okay for you, but that's not okay for me. And when I finally started letting go of things, like I use social media as an example because that was kind of the first one to go. And like I just cannot engage on my personal social media like I used to. And I remember like at first it was really hard because I'm like, oh my gosh, like am I losing my relevance here? Like I am I not as cool as I used to be? Like all these questions went through my head, but I still wouldn't take back the time that I've spent with my daughter to continue building like that time. Like my priorities shifted and I'm learning to be okay with it. And I think that that's really what I would want to tell anybody is decide what your priorities are, and you're going to have to learn to be okay with something that you want to be okay. And
Yeah.
that's a part of letting go of some control. And it's hard. I mean, I have to check myself every day on it, but it's weird. There's something really freeing about just letting go of control and understanding like what you're replacing something else with is better. And that's
Yeah, because I think as entrepreneurs, like you said, you want to be in control. That's the whole point of being an entrepreneur too, is you get to pick and choose what you want to do. But then, like you said, like I remember one of the girls that works for me, she just took over our work Instagram, and for me, like that's my baby, and I'm sure you're the same, right? Like our businesses are our firstborn, like
yeah.
babies, right? And for when I let that go, I was like, holy, I just felt so much weight off my shoulders. And I did not realize how much responsibility and how much she actually could focus and really bring that to the next level. And I was like, okay, now I can focus and be creative in other fields and really bring the business to the next level and how I know how to do that and as a leader.
Totally. I love that. That's really cool.
And having assistance, like whenever I'm doing like business coaching with other entrepreneurs or can give advice to someone too, I'm always like, start outsourcing, because the amount of time it takes you to do something, like I think of me when I'm doing like brand packaging, or I'm trying to do hiring and trying to do all these different things. I'm like, okay, can I outsource any of these? Like bookkeeping, I suck with numbers. And I think that's a huge entrepreneurial thing anyways. And I'm like, okay, let's hire like the best bookkeeper I can find or accountant, so I don't spend 10 hours trying to figure this out when they can figure it out in 2.
Totally. And outsourcing doesn't always mean hiring, signing on the dotted line. This is your employee. Outsourcing is like what you said, like find a really great bookkeeper, find, contract with, there's so many like people that can write copy for you, that can design an ad for you. Like be very careful when you're starting to employ. And I think that it should be reiterated 1,000 times. Like, find out what can be outsourced, but don't just be so quick to hire employees.
It could be as simple as getting a housekeeper. I was talking to another entrepreneur about it, and she's like, I don't know how I was a full-time mom, entrepreneur, and I was cleaning my house. Like, she's like, that alone, she's like, I feel so much more free not knowing I have to go home and vacuum my floors.
Geez, I mean, I don't even know how she was alive, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Something that stood out to me in one of your podcasts was, actually, I remember like always listening. I would drive to Toronto almost every weekend to go see my boyfriend, and your podcast, as soon as I would sit in the car, I was like, okay, I'm putting it on. Like, it was just like my freedom to when I'm like, okay, I'm learning something about the industry, but it's also like girls I can relate to, because I feel like in the industry, we sometimes don't have people to relate to. And I love the community that you've built around your brand and your business. But talk about like the first time you ever bought lashes and started actually selling them.
Oh, okay. So this is really funny. So I initially started Borboleta to I mean, I didn't even have the name Borboleta. I started a lash brand because I wanted to give my clients the best, and I just didn't feel like what was being offered on the market was really cutting it for me. And now the industry is so different. Like the standard is so much higher. But at the time it was just a very new industry. So I developed this little product line that was so basic and it was just for my clients. And I remember instantly putting it on my clients and they were like, whoa, you did something different. I'm like, yeah, I developed my own lashes just for you. And they were obsessed with them. And pretty soon I started getting like, I think people that I would put lashes on would just like go to like an esthetician or something and talk about their lashes, be like, and she has her own line or something. Cause like randomly, I just like Instagram didn't even exist back then, if that really dates me. But yeah, this was like 2010-ish probably. I would get these random phone calls and they'd be like, hi, is this the Kim that sells lashes? I'm like, sells lashes? Like, oh yes, sells lashes. Yeah. Come on over. Like, and I literally, you guys, because like I didn't have enough room in my little cubby at work to like house and inventory. So I just like shoved all my products in the trunk. Like it wasn't organized. I don't want to sell anybody on this story. Like filing cabinet and like no, it was just like just thrown in the trunk, like literally might as well thrown like a couple gym clothes in there and like I don't know, like clothes from the night before. It was a mess. And we shared a parking lot with the O'Reilly Auto Parts, which is, I don't know what that converts to in Canada, but it's like an auto parts company, like nothing sexy. And I just like pulled my little car up in the corner by the dumpster and parked there all day. And like these people would come by to buy my lashes and I'd be like, yeah, meet me by the car, right here. And they'd be like, okay, thinking they're going to walk into the business. And like, there I am, I just pop the trunk and I'm like, what do you need? Do you need some like C's? Do you need some .05s? Like I've got some adhesive. I hope it's not too hot outside. Like, I mean, this was like a seedy little operation. And it was like, and I'm saying this like at the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea what was even going on. Like I didn't have a brand, I didn't have anything. And I was like, cool, nice doing business with you. They're like, do you take card? I'm like, nope, cash only. Like it was literally out of control. But I look back at that and I'm like, whoa, like, and then I like look around at like all of the amazing artists that we've been able to influence and like the training program and like building a headquarters and like how my life has changed. And I'm like, you guys, it started by this like seedy little dumpster in an auto parts company. Like you tell me what you can do. Okay. Like I promise you, life is not brain surgery. It's like, you just got to figure out what you really want. But, I think what really catapulted from there, because I did eventually stop that operation and only for a few months. So everybody that's just like, whoa, how long are we talking here? Like Borboleta in business in the trunk for like a couple years. Like, no. I kind of just like did this kind of one-off thing here and there for a while. Then people started calling me and wanting to, hey, can you train me how to do lashes? Like, yeah, sure, I'll train you how to do lashes. Like, I'm not the best lash artist, but we can figure it out together. And then when my husband and I got married, he is like, he's all marketing, he's all brand, he's all about telling a story and heart and soul. And he really was the one that helped me concept the idea of Borboleta and what it could be. And he built our first website, which is really cool. And I'm so proud of him because like he was working at a startup tech company at the time, running their marketing department. I mean, if anybody knows how intense those hours are, that's like 80-hour work weeks. Like he had no time. And like his Sundays were basically his one day to recover. And he would sit in our little 1-bedroom apartment and just like code for my little lash website. And he really pushed me on it. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm doing lashes. I'm making great money. Dude, like I was banking on this tech company, I'm just like, whatever, we're good. But he launched the website, like there it was. I was like, wow, cool. So there's a website now. And all of a sudden something changed in my brain. I don't know what it was, but I was like, wait a second. I have a website. I have people that actually want to buy my product. I can sell to anybody now, not just like people that want to drive 20 minutes to the parking lot. I can literally like, I can sell to people in Canada. I can do what. So I'm looking at my website and I'm like, oh, but I have a problem. I don't have any inventory on my website because my trunk's not like, stacked. I've got probably like 10 SKUs in there. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to order, a little bit more product and load up the website, make it a little bit more official, start an Instagram account. I don't even know how to do Instagram, whatever. And then I remember looking at the bank account after, I'm like ready to like place my big order for my website. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, I don't have enough money to stock my website up. So in natural Kim fashion, I'm a newlywed. I swore like in my vows to my husband, I will never get into debt when we're like, because he knows my history of $1,000 credit card debt. What do? Go back into the closet, find like literally in some like jewelry box under, like lift everything out. And like, I knew I had a credit card in here somewhere, pull it out, run over, put my credit card number in. And I'm just like praying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I better sell this inventory. Cause if I don't, we are in debt. Like I'm screwed. I'm starting my marriage off like this. So the good news is 1 month later, I sold out completely on my website and it's history from there. I mean, I hustled. Like I knew that I had something that was magical and I was so enthusiastic and so passionate about it. I almost immediately, I gave all my clients away to some of my best friends, even some that I had trained. And I just gave my all to Borboleta. Like it just, like I said, it became my life. I was like, okay, I'm going for it. I'm jumping in. And now I tell this story and my husband's like, what? You did what? You didn't tell me. I'm like, no, I was too scared to, but you didn't even know about it. It was paid back before the interest even hit. Like you're fine. But it's just so funny to look back on that and realize like how different our stories are. Everybody's story is so different, but I'll tell you the moment that I really, because people all the time are like, well, how did you know when like you were doing well or like, when did life start to change for you? And I look back and I'm like, you know what the real defining moment for me was in that? It was like probably 4 months after we started the website and I was connecting with all these lash artists on Instagram. And I asked a group of women to come to dinner with me just so we could chat about lashes in the industry. And I remember when the check came out, I was like, I got it. I got the check. And that to me was like the moment where I was like, wait a second, like I actually can like pay for this dinner and not be stressed and not even feel bad about it. And like, wow, that's so cool. And I've never felt that way in my whole life. Like, cause you know how it's like always that awkward thing, like when the check comes out, everyone's like, like, and to me, like that was my moment of like, I've made it. Like I really have made it. I can pay for dinner now. Like I can do these things. And so when I talk to entrepreneurs, I always tell them, I'm like, making it isn't your dream home. It's not your dream car. Like those are all steps and those take years to make it. Even though we look at people and we're like, oh my gosh, they made it overnight. And nobody makes it overnight. And if they have, call me because I'd love to know. But like, I promise you, like, think about the little things. Like, that's when you know you've made it. When something so small that used to stress you out, you don't even think about anymore. And that to me, like my business created freedom for me. And I always just look back at like being so stressed out about putting that first, stocking up my inventory and being in debt. And then all of a sudden going like a few months later to being able to buy dinner for people and not even thinking about it. And that to me was like one of the biggest accomplishments I always look back on.
Absolutely. And I think like, I remember when I was like, oh, when I hit 5 years in business, I'm going to buy a Louis Vuitton. No, and then I was like, wait a minute, I can buy like inventory for my spa with the money that I could buy a Louis Vuitton. Like there was just so many realizations. I was like, wow, that little kid in me was like, is this going to like identify me? But I remember in one of your podcasts, you were saying how your apartment was your like warehouse.
Oh, girl. Like, not when we very, very first started. Like when we first started, we'll find this picture someday. It's on my husband's iCloud. My inventory box first came in. We were in this tiny 1-bedroom apartment. At that point, like it wasn't a big deal. When it became a big deal was we had moved out of our 1-bedroom apartment. We got into this like, well, first, then after that, we moved into my husband's brother's basement. Then it started to kind of stock up a little bit. So then we're like, okay, we need like our own place. So we moved out of there, and basically that became the warehouse. Like, and that was all in like a 6-month time span. Like, it was quick. And it was so funny because it was like this 2-story condo, and you walk in the front door and you're just like shoving boxes out of the way, and like you turn the corner and there's just like boxes like floor to ceiling, and like there was a sofa and there's just like this tiny place carved out that you could sit on and like work on, and like desks were lined up in the wall. You go in the kitchen and there's just boxes everywhere. You go downstairs, we're shipping and fulfilling, there's suitcases everywhere. I mean, like, that condo was our warehouse. But I'm so the reason why I think I did that, it's maybe at the time we could have afforded, I know we could have afforded a warehouse, a tiny, tiny little warehouse. But that condo cost us, I think, $1,200 a month. So I was like, I live here and I work here and I'm saving money. And to me, like, and I talked about this in a recent Instagram post, all of my, all of the money that we were making at Borboleta went back into Borboleta, and it went back into Borboleta. Like, I didn't start taking a real paycheck until I'd say like maybe 2 years ago. And that's not to like make people feel like, oh my gosh, I'm taking a paycheck. Like, what am I doing? It's like, I took enough to like pay my bills and to live, but I knew the Borboleta was a long-term investment. And because I love Borboleta so much, because it's my life, spending money on Borboleta to me is like buying the Louis Vuitton bag. It's like buying the shoes. And not to say that like along the way I haven't bought nice things or, splurged or whatever, but I really believe like money doesn't come overnight, unless maybe you're Kylie Jenner, I don't know. But for me, money did not come overnight. And I loved watching, like, being able to have enough money to hire this kick-ass product developer. Like, that to me was another milestone. Or to like hire, a CEO, or to just build out this awesome team, or to like get this really cool, inspiring office so that people could come and collaborate and love it. Like, that's where I was like, that is money well spent for me. Even to this day, like, my husband and I, we live in a 2-bedroom condo. It's a nice condo. We live downtown. It's convenient for us. Like, but I haven't bought my dream home. I don't have my dream car. And it's not a sob story. It's just like, sometimes as an entrepreneur, you feel this pressure because you see other entrepreneurs that are like buying the shoes, buying the cars, doing this, doing that. Like, you're not in a competition with anyone but yourself. Your business is who, if you want to compete with someone, compete with your business. And what your business needs is, your business needs funding. Your business doesn't need you to have the latest shoes or the latest this or that. Your business doesn't care what car you drive. You will get that stuff. But don't look at everyone else and be like, so-and-so runs the same business as I do, and she's driving this and she's doing that. You don't know their story. Mm-hmm. Just write. And don't be so worried about it. Material things come and go. Your business is an investment.
I agree, like, on so many levels. I feel like that's why I like resonate with your podcast, and now just being on and having conversations with you, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Like, just so many things. I think people are going to listen to this and just be like, wow, that makes sense. And people are like, I laugh at, like, I probably drive one of the oldest cars out of all my friends, but I'm one of the only ones that owns a business. And I'm like, why would I buy a new car when I could invest that money back into my business, when a car is not going to, it's not going to gain anything for me. And there's so many things that you said that I think resonate in so many different industries too. And nothing defines you that's materialistic. Like, but I loved you had made this point during one of the podcasts about having blazers and dressing in a blazer every day, and just like, doesn't matter if you have a white t-shirt underneath and a nice pair of jeans and a pair of high heels. Like, I remember saying that, and I was like, wow, I'm looking at my closet. I'm like, I do have all these blazers. And like, for me, wearing a blazer every day at work was like, okay, this is what I want to be. I want to be that boss babe wearing this blazer. And then you had said it in this podcast. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the same thing. That's so funny.
Love that. Yes, dress for the job that you want, not for the job that you have.
Yes.
And I have to remind me, like, pandemic was hard. Look, I dressed the job that I wanted during pandemic was laying in bed all day, I guess. Like, I sweatpants all day long, if I'm being totally honest. But I feel like you don't have to go out and buy this head to toe designer look. Like, you can make anything look good. Hop on Pinterest and pin a bunch of things that you have in your closet and just make outfits. And you'll be surprised, like, whoa, I have way more clothes than I ever even know what to do with them. And I can make them look so kick ass. Like,
Yes.
get creative with it. And I know Instagram doesn't help anything because we all sit on there and are like, wait a second, I want to buy this. I want this. I need that. I do it too. I'm totally guilty of it. How I've tried to avoid that is we can't just withhold everything. We can't just work so hard and then just like withhold it, I believe. So I always set a goal for myself. Like, okay, in 3 months, I'm going to save up this much money every single day. And then I'm going to go and get this. So it could be a new bag. It could be a new car. It could be whatever it is that you want. You put it on there, you write it down, you set the goal, and you tell yourself, this is how much money I need every single day. And you'll be so surprised what you say no to because you have a goal to meet. So it was funny because my husband and I actually have been saving up for a new car and we have been doing this exercise. It's so funny to me how, like, I'm like, I don't need to go to Starbucks. I'm fine. Like, I'll buy tea at the grocery store. Like, I'll do this, I'll do that, right? Like, oh, we don't need to go to the liquor store this week. Like, we can take a week off of drinking. It's just funny, like the things that you come up with to save money to reach that goal. And that's why I always love goal setting. So I'm not saying like, listen here, folks, don't you dare spend a dime. It all goes back in your business and then you can get what you want later when you're 80 in life and it doesn't even matter. Like, no, just set goals for yourself that are obtainable, that it gets you excited, and you'll be so interested to see what goes through your mind where you're like, I actually don't need that because what I want is this and I'm going to keep saving for it. It works. So yeah.
I
And
love that. And I think too, having your why, like to be like, why do I want that thing so bad? Because if you're just like, oh, I specifically, like me and my Louis Vuitton thing that I wanted, I was like, oh, but there's no reason why I needed it. That really drove me to wanting that goal. But I think that's such a great lesson. And I feel like those type of things really should be taught in schools, like right down to the basics.
Yep. I think podcasts are becoming the new school.
Oh yeah.
Learned so much from, I'll tell you what, I learned so much from podcasts, and I'm myself, like, I'm not a TikToker, but I do learn a lot on TikTok. It's like, everything's so siloed on there. It's like, oh, I want to learn how to make like the most fresh, like baby potatoes. Like, I'm going to look those up. And I know, like, all of a sudden, like the most magnificent potatoes just pop up out of nowhere. So I think it's interesting, but social media, YouTube, you know, TikTok, podcasts, books, um, these things are where you learn these street smart things and where it does so much good for your mind, but do it with intention, because Instagram and social media at the same time can be exhausting and draining, and you can play that comparison game a lot. I know we're all guilty of it. So before I go on social media, I always try to set an intention, like, why am I logging in? What am I looking for? What am I hoping to accomplish? Same thing on any channel I go to. And then I try to read books. I actually not just listen to books on tape, or whatever. Like, I actually will watch what other people that I really admire are reading, and I will Amazon order the book and I will read it. And it takes me forever. Some days I read a paragraph, but you will be surprised how much a book reignites your mind. And yes, you're right. This is the stuff they don't teach you in college. They probably never will. College is to make our brains smart, but what is making us street smart? What's helping us be better people?
Exactly. And even communication skills. Like I think of like that was actually one of my New Year's resolutions, was to try to read a book a month, because I was like you. I would read one paragraph a day or whatever, but I'm like, okay, I actually have the time to sit here and read a chapter. I'm just sitting here on TikTok or Instagram and I don't have an intention. So that's definitely something I've been trying to do as like I say, ask me in like a few months if I'm still doing it, though, because we're still fairly early here.
I'll hold
New year. There we go. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you too is just share with our listeners. I feel like I know like so much already, the answers to a lot of these questions, but tell everyone where Borboleta's name came from, why you decided to call it Borboleta.
Yeah, so borboleta means butterfly in Portuguese. My husband speaks fluent Portuguese. We do a lot of business now in Brazil and Portugal, probably because of that reason. But it really came from the idea of the concept of a butterfly. Butterflies are so unique, they're all different. They go through a transformation to quote unquote become their most beautiful self. And when we were kind of discussing, like brainstorming the idea of a brand, my husband, like I said, he's a marketer. He was asking me like, what does beauty mean to you? And to me, you're talking to someone that's like, I was probably as superficial as can be, a 26-year-old, like, I don't know, beauty to me means like looking really pretty on the outside. So I don't know what I said actually, but it probably wasn't anything that deep. And my husband, when I asked him, I said, well, what does beauty mean to you? It was so interesting. He was commenting because we were on this road trip back from Vegas, and he was saying like, it's so interesting. Like, we're in the middle of the desert, but it's so beautiful here. And then like you get up to the Salt Lake Valley, and there's like these majestic, gorgeous mountains, and like you can just find beauty anywhere. And he's like, beauty's diversity to me. That's what it is. Like, we find beauty in the most simple things. And he's like a butterfly, and I was like, I am not calling my brand Butterfly Lashes. Like, you've got to, like I was like dying inside. But because he speaks Portuguese, I was like, okay, this is a really interesting concept. And he threw out, Borboleta. And I was like, that's actually really pretty. Like, I like Borboleta, and I like the heart and soul and the meaning behind it. And we kind of went with it, and we got back, and he designed out this logo, and it's always just stuck. And we decided it was funny because in my mind I was like, okay, Borboleta Lashes, and then he kind of challenged me, and he was like, what about Borboleta Beauty? Because do you just want to be lashes? Like, we can be so much more than just lashes. And that's why we stuck with beauty. And I'll tell you what, when I first came into the industry, and like I was this nobody, like all the big brands were just like, what is going on here? Like, Barba, what? Like, come on now. Is this a joke? Like, am I being punked right now? Like, she's trying to sell lash. Like, I was the laughing stock of and I know I was. Like, I have people to this day that I'm friends with now that are like, you were a joke. But it's okay. I think it's funny. Like, I laugh about it. And to all you entrepreneurs listening, you will get laughed at a lot. Okay. So let me give you some advice. Laugh with them. Okay. Just laugh about it. Don't take things so personal. I've had to learn that over the years. Like, there's been some things that I've like blown up about and been so offended. And now I look back, and like the things that used to make me mad, I'm like, Kim, just find something funny. Just find humor in it, because life is not that serious. So it's just funny. Like, I remember coming on the scene, trying all these weird marketing things. I think I threw my legs up in an Instagram post, and like people were just like, what in the world is going on right now? Like, it was the most wild thing. And the other thing is like, I didn't care. And you just can't care, you guys. Like, you really just have to be so confident. Like, yes, people will say things. People will try to hurt your feelings. Everyone will have an opinion about you. Most people that don't know you usually have a bad opinion about you, because that's just the society that we live in. Find the humor in everything. Laugh about it. Life isn't that serious. Accept that not everyone's going to love you. Accept that people will say horrible, mean, awful things about you, and smile at it. I've had people say things like, there's something wrong with your mouth. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's the mouth I was born with. I can't do much about it. Like, what do I do? Like, there's things like that you just can't control, you guys. So yeah, I mean, that's where it all comes back to. And that's why I'm so proud of the name Borboleta. It is unique. It is different. It does, when you hear Borboleta, you know that there's something interesting about it. And Borboleta's been through a lot, and I do resonate with a butterfly. We did start off as like a little caterpillar, and I do feel like there's been moments where I'm like, I am becoming a butterfly, like I really am. And then there's other moments where I'm like, well, I'm a caterpillar again. I don't know, but I stand behind it. I'm so proud of it. I love the concept of it, and yeah, it's just my little baby, my little Borboleta baby. You can call it Borby for short.
Borby, yeah, yeah. Well, and also too, I just think it's so like the emoji on Instagram of the butterfly, and it's your blue. Like, did that just happen out of fluke?
I mean, I guess I could tell everybody that I'm so high up in Instagram with my 33 followers that I gave them a call and I was like, hey, yo, I need a blue butterfly. No, that just came out of nowhere. We were so lucky. Like I was dying the day it came out. Like, what?
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Cause like with our brand, we're starting to do like the GIFs or GIFs or whatever the heck they're called on Instagram. And I laugh because I'm like, we need like an emoji. Like, how did Kim do this?
I wish I could take credit for it. You know what? It was divine intervention. It was meant to be.
Yeah, there you go. Setting it out to the universe, like we were saying, right? That's awesome. Well, this was incredible. I am like so inspired on so many levels, and I'm sure everyone listening feels the same way, no matter what industry, because you touched on so many different points, like even just the last ones of like, just laugh at yourself. Like, I think in anything, like we have to, if we trip and fall and do something, just try to laugh it off. If in business, like if I feel really bad right now with a lot of businesses, like some people are realizing the realization that they might have to close or different things happening, but there's always a journey, there's always a path. And I look at your journey and listening to your podcast and just following you over the years, like this has been so inspiring, just being able to hop on here and talk to you. And I think with myself, I see a lot of the same journey steps you did in the beginning. And actually I'm 26 is like right now. So I just like look and inspire, like I just inspire to be in your shoes one day when someone can call me up and be like, can we do a Zoom call, like podcast thing? Like that would be like, that's where I want to be to that level. And that's why I admire you so much. And like, even just to jump on here means the world to me.
Oh, thank you. And honestly, anytime I am asked to be a part of a podcast, it's such an honor to me. And anytime that I can talk to entrepreneurs and just to hear you say that, it means more than you know. Like just because I'm here in my business doesn't like enjoy the journey.
Yes.
Just enjoy the journey because wherever you want to go, Nicole, you're going to go. Like you'll surpass what we've done here. You just have to want what you want bad enough. It's like I said, you just have to want it bad enough to breathe. So just enjoy your journey. You're going to look back at these times and always laugh at them. The worst times, the absolute worst and most horrifying things that I've been through in my business, I now can look back and laugh and almost laugh so hard that like tears are rolling down my face because one, I'm a total idiot. And two, the other person that probably made me mad acted like a total idiot too. So just you guys, I know it's a really, really hard time right now, but don't give up hope and manifest what you want and don't put a lid on it. Like, girl, you're 26 years old. You have such a bright future ahead of you. Call me in a year from now. Tell me what
Well, once we can get into travel and all of that fun stuff again too, I'll definitely need to venture to come see you. And I think it'll be such a neat revolution in a way where they're going to look back at this pandemic, and not that I want to say that people will laugh at it, but people will say like, wow, I had so much doubt, or wow, I like really put my life on pause. And what I keep telling people and some of the people I'm coaching is I tell them like, this is the time to grow. This is the time to figure out the systems and all the things that are working. And I've even looked at your company, for example, and your aftercare line. You've revolved that so much during this time, and it just keeps revolving. So I applaud you so much for that too.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Maybe the pandemic is not a laughing matter. There are some things that are not, but yes, in all seriousness, I do agree with you. I think that this time is a huge time to learn. And if you're feeling a lack of motivation, depleted, depressed, exhausted, that's normal. I mean, I've felt that way more than I haven't this year. And I'll tell you, exactly what's gotten me through those really hard days is what we talked about earlier. It's picking up a book and reading a paragraph. It's listening to a podcast. It's those little things that at the time in your mind you're just like, none of that's going to help me right now. I just need to lay in bed. Pull yourself and try to do at least something, and it will change the outlook on the way you see things. It's a hard year, and it's okay for all of us to admit that. And I wish everyone that's listening to this just the best of hope in your businesses, and don't be afraid to pivot. Sometimes the best thing you can do.
Yes, 100%. And yeah, I want to end it on that note because I agree with you 100% on that. So where can everyone find you, Kim? On Instagram, social media? Where's the best place to start following you and see you?
Yeah. So you can find me personally at Kimber Janes. And then you can follow my business at Borboleta Beauty. Or if you're a lash artist and a total lash junkie, we have at borboleta.artist. So we've got a few, but you'll find me the most on my personal page.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I appreciate you jumping on this call so much, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much again.